You and I are more alike than you think. Everyone tells you get a Cardo, get a Cardo, get a Cardo. And you look at the prices, and the Cardos are so expensive. Like the cheapest one is like 175, I think, and the most expensive one is like 450. And if you're like me, your helmet doesn't even cost that much. So to buy an accessory that costs more than the helmet itself seems it's gonna take some convincing, right? Full disclosure, I did buy a Cardo before I knew how good these generic ones were, all right? And exactly about them and all the details. So I wanted to share that with you. I have the Cardo Spirit. So the Cardo Spirit is the bottom of the line, bottom of the barrel, cheapest Cardo available. And it does not have a mesh system. Mesh means that you can speak to 3 or more people, as opposed to having a Bluetooth connection, which is all the basic ones that are cheaper. So the Spirit only has Bluetooth, that does not have mesh, so you can't be talking to 13 other people like it is marketed for other higher end or higher models of Cardo. But I did find out recently that you can connect a Bluetooth only device with other units by tethering to another rider. So in other words, if you want to have 3 riders but yours can only connect to one other person, you connect to that one other person. Basically, they daisy chain to the next person, so 3 of you can talk. It gets a little bit complicated, but so let's kind of focus on why it's okay to get a cheaper brand or a generic brand, okay? Because a lot of people are thinking, what am I missing by getting the generic one? Like, how come I don't just get the Cardo, and you want the cheaper one, but you're like, what am I missing? Okay, so this is what you're missing, all right? The generic ones are not going to connect as many people, all right? So this XGP X10, I reached out to them because I trusted their product from other reviews, but then, like everything else on YouTube, not everything is out there, so I wanted to get it for myself and see what it's about. And it works very nicely. We'll talk more in detail about it, but basically the usability is great. You turn it on, there's no app, okay? So it's very simple. You turn on by pressing this dial right here, and then you press another button, the mesh button, and then it connects literally within seconds. So I use this for my 2 kids.
My helmet, my daughter's helmet, my son's helmet. Let's go ahead and just demonstrate how quickly they are to mesh. We're gonna turn this unit on first. So obviously you could turn these on individually like I am, or each of you just turn on at the same time as you're wearing them. All right, when it said connected on that one, that means it's connecting to the phone that I'm filming on right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and press the mesh button, which is this M, on each of them.
Intercom mesh on.
And then it blinks green. And when I do the last one, you'll see they turn solid.
Mesh device connected.
So these 2 are already solid, and then we're waiting for that one. That's it.
3 mesh device connected.
3 mesh devices connected. So that was literally within seconds. Step 1 is we're gonna turn it on by pressing the big button for a couple seconds. And in the speaker, you'll hear that it's on. And then once everyone's is on, we're gonna press that green button when I am. All right, go ahead and press the...
It is on.
It is on? Okay. So now that it's blinking, now that it's solid, it means that
it's
the 2
connected.
mesh systems are connected. So can you guys hear each other?
Yep.
Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and press the on button just for a couple seconds until the light blinks blue, which it did. And then we're gonna go ahead and press the M button. It's gonna blink, and then solid means it's connected to the other 2 helmets. There we go. So solid green. You saw how quickly that was to connect to 2 additional helmets. My son is right there in between the cars. And then I'm here, and I can still hear them pretty well. And my daughter is beyond, probably a little bit further than the trees.
I don't want to buy Cardos, mesh Cardos that are like $250 plus for each of them, and then for myself, right? That's just a group of money that I don't think I need to spend. So the XGP, but again, the generic brands, what you're missing is you're not going to be able to connect to as many people. This one is rated for 10 people, as opposed to 14 for a Cardo. If you've never had an intercom system before, if you've never spoken to other people while riding, let me tell you, you may think you're going to talk to 10 people or 14 people, but you're likely not even going to want to talk to more than 2 other people. 4, maybe max, because it gets a little hectic when there's so many people on the line. And generally, if you're going to have so many people in a group talking, it's going to be very formal, and there's going to be some rules. And generally, it's going to be people who are leading the ride. Let's stand up for a moment here. Generally, it's going to be people leading the ride, or a caboose, or someone just to kind of get the logistics to keep a group together. You're not going to have 10 people having all these, like, a single conversation, because it's going to end up being multiple conversations. And then you're not going to have a bunch of people talking about their weekend, okay? 10 people on the line or 14 people on the line, that's just crazy. So a lot of it's just going to be logistics, or you're going to be talking to a few people, not a lot of people, all right? So I don't think the difference between... Some bikers are saying hi. I don't think the difference between 10 people and 14 people is even a thing, because I never ever plan to talk to more than, like, say 3 other people, max. And generally that's going to be my family. If I'm going to talk to friends on a ride, it's going to be probably 2 other people at max. I think just when it gets to too many, it gets very disorganized, and it's not fun anymore. I know your question, so I'm going to answer those for you. You're worried about getting the cheaper one because you're like, what about the range? I need range. Okay, if you're riding a motorcycle, okay, where you're going at high speeds, you're on the freeway, and you're riding with friends who are on separate motorcycles, then yes, you're going to need big range, and likely you may want a Cardo, which will have longer range, okay? But if you're riding a one wheel or an E-skate or an EUC, then chances are you're going to be in your group ride, you're going to be with people who are within a close proximity of you, and you're not really going to need the range. So really, why pay for an expensive Cardo for a range that you won't use? So again, motorcycle, higher speeds, further distance, yes, you're going to want to take advantage of the range. But for everything else that's close proximity, you're not necessarily going to take advantage of that. And I don't necessarily think that paying for that, if you're not using it, is necessarily, the wisest choice from a financial point. Your next question is, what about sound quality, Brian? I want sound quality. All right, I am not an audiophile whatsoever, so I can't even tell the difference. And I drive a car that has, no kidding, 2 speakers, okay? Not 8 speakers, not 12 speakers, not 14 speakers. My car has 2 speakers. And can I tell the difference? Yeah. Did I upgrade the speakers on that? Yes, I did. But as far as listening to music and talking to people on an intercom unit, I don't think the difference is enough to be paying 2x, 3x the price. I mean, this XGP that we're talking about, the XGP X10, which is a mesh unit that connects up to 10 people, that unit is priced at $65 to $75, maybe $100. Okay, so you're getting the features of a much more expensive unit without the name for a fraction of the cost. And I think that is well worth it. All right, what is the main thing that I don't like about the unit? Okay, it's something that no one has ever discussed because it's quite specific to this unit, okay, the XGP X10. Get ready. You're gonna learn something that you never knew existed. All right, I guess there's such thing as a proprietary USB-C, all right? The USB-C is USB-C, like everyone knows what USB-C is, right? Except the connector, the silver part, is longer, and it has to be longer to fit into the socket. And so you have to use the one that's included. You can't use your own USB-C cable. You have to use the one that's included. Can you buy them somewhere else? Maybe. But if you're going to be thinking that you're going to use your existing USB-C cables to charge this, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to use the one that you. The good news, though, is that if you're getting a intercom unit. You're probably getting more than one, right? So you can talk to other people. So you are going to have other cables. So if you're generally going to be using the unit on your own, then you can have one in the garage, have one in your bag, or at home and at work or wherever. You can have multiple locations where you have your cable. So that's one thing that no one has ever talked about. I don't know why. The look of it, the look has kind of grown on me. When you look at the unit, especially online, it looks kind of plasticky and dinky. And it's how should I say? It's not poor quality by any means. I mean, even the packaging itself is pretty good quality, the way they package it. And then when I took it out of the box, it is a little bit heavier than I expected. Because when you're paying fractions of the cost of a unit that has the same features, you're expecting, of course, to cut something. And I think a lot of that is just saving on the marketing costs and stuff like that. But the unit itself is pretty good. I'm going to take the unit off so that you can see that, and you can see some of the other, I don't want to say drawbacks, but just the differences between this and the Cardo. What are you not getting when you buy this versus Cardo? We're going to go to a place with a bit nicer background because you don't want to look bad appropriate for it.
All right, early morning, we're here at Golden Gate Park. Let's take a look at this unit. So this is the XGP X10. You're gonna pull this tab here. Actually, before that, so one thing is that the way it connects is through this cord, as opposed to a Cardo. It has connectors, like metal electronic connectors here and then on here. And so once you clip it in place, it's already connected. But for this one, you're gonna have to actually plug this guy into here. So what I was talking about earlier is how this channel here is deeper than most things that you're going to charge. And therefore, this piece here, that metal part, is a lot longer or taller than your USB-C cables at home. So it's somewhat proprietary in the sizing has to fit in there. So why did they do that? I don't know. Maybe they're trying to match the size of this and this so that they're equal, or maybe they want it deeper so it's more waterproof. I have no idea, but it would be nice if it was just a standard depth USB-C. All right, so the unit itself, I don't know. It's not that aggressive looking. There aren't any sharp lines. It's pretty round. Not necessarily my taste, but it has been kind of growing on me. The simplicity of this is very, very good. So one thing you'll notice is for Cardos, you only have a dial or a roller on the higher end models. The cheaper models like the Spirit do not come with a dial. I do like the dial quite a bit because instead of pressing a button for higher volume and lower volume, you turn the dial and it is you can set it to the exact volume that you want. One thing that is it's not a bad thing, but it's just takes some getting used to. So you can imagine if you're wearing your helmet and this is mounted on the left side, for me at least, I think intuitively forward would be louder and backward would be softer, but it's not, because it's somewhat like a dial on your car where left is softer and right is louder. So you just kind of have to get used to the fact that going towards the back is going to be louder and going towards the front is going to be softer. And this dial is actually also a button. So you're going to press that to turn that on, and it will have a prompt and there will be a blue ring. And then to connect the mesh, you're going to press this M button, M for mesh. It'll turn green, and on all the other units, it'll also turn green. And literally within like 3 seconds, they'll all be connected. And it couldn't be easier. You don't have to pull out your phone for an app like I do for my Cardo when I use that for other friends. The way it connects here is like every other helmet, where you're going to put your speakers inside the helmet itself. You're going to feed that through the back of the padding. I'm not going to go through all that detail because you've probably seen like hundreds of videos that show you how to do that. And then here's the bracket. So one concern people may have is that, oh, this bracket is plastic, it's going to be dinky, it's going to fall apart. This very piece is metal. So this is plastic, yes, but this is metal. And basically these tabs here click right onto here and then just come down. And that's it. And you're going to plug this guy in and then you're good to go. So one cool thing also about getting a non-Cardo or non-Sena or the cheaper models is that the brackets themselves are also cheaper, which is kind of a big deal. Because if you have multiple helmets and you want to put this on multiple helmets, but you don't want to buy, you know, multiple XGP X10 intercoms, you can just buy the bracket itself for all your helmets and then just kind of move this from helmet to helmet as you're using them. So that's a big deal because with Cardo, the prices for the speakers and the bracket is, I want to say like $50. And this unit itself, I got sponsored for 2 of them and I bought one of them and I think it was under 70. I'll put a link below and I'll probably do a little screenshot on the side here from Aliexpress. But the pricing is just so good for these. You're bound to ask, does it have connection to Siri if you have an iPhone? Yes, it does. You're going to press this button twice, and then you'll have the prompt, and then you just do whatever Siri command that you have. And it works flawlessly. The quality and just the whole responsiveness of this unit is very good. Another thing I like is the simplicity of the button. Like, this button literally does practically everything. So it's used to turn it on, it's used to change the volume. If you double click it, that's what initiates Siri. And you press it once and you can pause the music, you press again and you continue the music. So and to turn off the unit, you hold that down as well. With the Cardo that I have, it's always pressing a combination of buttons at the top or the bottom or on the side. And then ergonomically, as you're wearing the helmet, that may be a little bit harder to do, to press 2 buttons at once and to recall what button does what. With this, it's literally one button and it's a little bit concave here, as you can see. So as you're reaching for it and not visible when you're wearing the helmet, of course, you can still feel where it's at. And because it sticks up, it's just, you can't really miss this. And because it's used for all the functions, it's very practical compared to the Cardo Spirit. So normally I'd have a hard time recommending something if I haven't used its competition. Although I've used the Cardo Spirit, I have not used other generic brands or non-mainstream brands of intercoms. However, because it does all its functions and performs very well at a really good price, I do recommend it. The prices for the particular XGP X10 ranges from, I think the lowest I saw was 65 and the highest I saw was 100. Another question you may be asking yourself is, all my friends have Cardo, I feel like I need a Cardo and I'm leaning towards it. Unless you're talking to 3 or more people, then yes, you will need the mesh system with Cardo because all mesh systems are proprietary and you do have to have the same brand. However, as I mentioned earlier in the video, your generic brand will for sure work with other Bluetooth connected devices. So it doesn't matter what brand they are because all the Bluetooth are compatible with each other. All right, let's talk about practical use case for an intercom system, because it's not just like the convenience and that it's a cool gadget or new accessory to have. There's actually a safety involved into it. So I'm heading to the spa right now, and it doesn't really concern you, but this is where my son had fallen. And so I was in front of him because we were about to cross the street and I wanted to make sure everything was clear and they could see where I was before we did that. And then I heard in XGP that there was this crashing plastic sound. And so basically my son had fallen off his EUC and he was rolling around. He ended up having damage to the chin part of his helmet on one side and then the side of the other side. So if it wasn't for the intercom, I wouldn't have heard that he had fallen. And so it's very important that we have intercom systems, especially with kids and other family members, or even people that are new to riding whatever it is that you're riding, so that you can communicate in case there's danger at that moment, or if there's something up ahead. A lot of times when we're using the intercom system with a friend of mine, and we use a different one because I have a different helmet, but the purpose is the same, is if there's something coming up or someone coming up, and we're on the street, we can announce to other people that there's an obstacle, there's a car coming, there's a pedestrian around the corner, something like that. So it's not just about chatting about, you know, how your weekend was. It does have a safety use. And I found that when I used to ride with a friend of mine, Stanley, before we had the Cardo,
we would only talk when we were on stops. And then now with the intercom unit, we're able to talk all the time. And there are times where it's silent and we're not talking, and that's totally fine. So it's not like just because you have an intercom, you need to be speaking all the time. So intercom system, all in all, I think some people may shy away from it because of the price or the cost of a Cardo, but know that the XGP X10 is a very good alternative to having an intercom system that's priced a lot higher. So you may wonder why I reached out to XGP out of other brands. And the main reason why is the usability, the simplicity of the unit. So a lot of units always have a complaint of how it's so hard to connect to another user, it doesn't work all the time. And this one I hear was very reliable, and the fact that it has literally a mesh button, you literally turn on the unit by pressing the big button, and then you press this M button here, and it turns green, and then everyone's connected within 3 seconds. And it's flawless. Every time I use it with my kids, and we've gone maybe almost 40 miles on multiple outings together, and it's never failed. Every time you just press that. So, one more thing that's really good about this, and I'm not sure if this happens with all units, but I have a feeling it doesn't. But there's something that's very convenient, and that's that if your distance is too far and it disconnects, once you get to the connected distance, it'll reconnect automatically. So you don't have to repair, you don't have to press a button. There'll be an announcement that says that you're connected again. So that again is very, very useful, especially if you're with kids or people who are not used to wearing helmets or wearing intercoms and having to figure out everything that's new to them. And when you're connected, it just reconnects and there's nothing else you need to do. So I love that. But before I go, XGP does have other models. There's ones that are designed only as a solo user Bluetooth connection. So it's basically like an earpiece, only for phone calls, only for music, not for intercoms at all. And then there's ones that are Bluetooth only that connect to one other user, and then they have this mesh net. The value, I would say, is best on this mesh version, which is the X10. The other ones are priced anywhere from about $17 to $35. The fact that you have the mesh one, you do have the option to expand if the use case changes. And it's in that sense, it's a little bit more future-proof.
XGP has not offered me any sort of special discount code. I will have links in the description below. These are non-affiliate links. They're just direct links from Aliexpress. You can get it from Amazon, but you're gonna pay a little bit more for it. Currently, there is a coupon that's part of Amazon where you can get a little bit more of a discount, but it's still gonna be higher than prices at Aliexpress. Aliexpress, it's no telling how long it takes for delivery, but generally for items in general, not from XGP specifically, but in general, normally takes about 10 days or less, but these days in March of 2025, they're taking longer. So if you do want it in a day or two, Amazon's gonna be your best bet, but again, you're gonna be paying a little bit more.